Thomas Nast was the most important political cartoonist, caricaturist, satirist of the 19th century in the United States. Not only was very, very good at what he did, but he was a great innovator, trailblazer, and inventor of the form. It had existed in other countries vigorously in France and in Great Britain. But he came to the United States from Germany with a European sensibility combined with an American sense of outrageous passion, wearing your politics on your sleeve. I don't think anybody in Europe was as direct as Nast was in terms of, going after people in a partisan way. I think Daumier was against dictatorial practices by dominant political figures. But Nast really got into the minutiae of politics. He was very well versed, the way a sophisticated politico would be, in how government worked and what issues were. He'd have big political tracts nailed to the walls of his cartoons, tying the Democratic platform to the tail of the donkey. At one time, the most passionate and angry, but also the most wonky of cartoonists. But it is in his innovations that he is most famous. He's most famous for inventing the Republican elephant. He's most famous for developing the Democratic donkey, which had been there before, but he made the donkey a jackass. And the jackass to Nast was the result of his knowledge of Shakespeare and Bottom in Midsummer Night's Dream, who is a total fool. And the elephant in Nast's argot is a dignified, strong, but not very articulate animal. So he admires the elephant, but he sees the Republicans are big and strong, but not really able to get out of certain traps and certain fixes that they wind up in. There are less significant symbols to us today, but very significant at his time, of the Tammany tiger, which represented the New York political, democratic, Catholic machine, and other things like Rag Baby, Tar Baby, a variety of other animals. He had a whole zoo of animals that people back then understood, but today will need a little explanation. Uncle Sam is developed by Thomas Nast. Uncle Sam existed before in cartoons, but Nast really turns him into his own character, and he's a comic character. He's not like the James Montgomery Flagg, I want you, Uncle Sam. He's funny, he's overwhelmed, confused, and like a comic uncle who's living in your basement and comes up once in a while and says something silly. Nast is a cultural machine. He's a cultural touchstone for the 1860s and 1870s. Everybody knew him. Everybody was motivated by him. And I think that had a lot to do with the fact that there was not a lot of media back then. It's hard to imagine being in a world where there's not a lot of media. But there wasn't. You had real life, and then more real life, and then more real life, and then occasionally you had a Harper's Weekly or Frank Leslie's Weekly or New York Illustrated News, and then if you lived in New York, you had a bunch of papers. But if you didn't live in New York, you had a couple papers, maybe one paper, and it was probably not too good. And this is it's a very different world. So if you have the leading picture maker in that world, it's a small pond, he's a very big fish.